We should be going live here in about 15 seconds.
Okay.
Jim should be coming on.
Jim is here.
Hey, Jim.
Hey,
Hi there,
hey guys.
everybody.
What's up? What's up, Jay?
Hey man, how are you?
Doing pretty good yourself?
It's all working out.
Are we down south today or are we up north today?
I'm still here trying to figure
All right.
out plumbing and stuff. You know how that is.
Yeah, we have homeowner stuff. It's all good. Congrats.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your award too. I don't think we said it last time.
Oh, you did when I first got it, but now it's been.
Good, good.
now
That was
it's
a
been
rerun.
available. It's going to be on Facebook tonight, so you guys can look at it then.
Ah, very good.
Nice.
All right, I don't believe Martin is going to be joining us this evening.
Sounds like I think it's everybody's here then.
Yep, we're good to go.
Well, let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. It's the meeting of the Town Commissioners of Poolesville on July 20th, 2020. Seth, do you want to do a roll call?
Yes, Jim Brown,
Here.
Valerie Dickerson,
I'm here.
Jerry
Audio lead.
Gronkowski,
Present.
and I guess Miss Cook herself,
Here.
and Jay Gullo, our attorney, is present as well.
Thank you. Val, do you want to lead us in the pledge this evening?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So the first thing we have on our agenda is our commissioner announcements / reports. And looks like Jim, you are up first.
I'd like to decline till we get a little further down the line. Make me last.
All right.
And I'm going to come right back, so my screen will look blank for just a minute.
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and go then. So I got on the call last week with our county council member, Andrew Friedson, and was able to thank his staff or thank him for his staff's help with our flood retention pond issue, the fish kill situation that we had going on, and just reiterated that this does seem to be a yearly occurrence, that we may very well have an issue with not just one, but two of our town ponds. And I believe DEP is supposed to come and do some more analysis of that this week. So we'll find out if dredging the pond itself will be happening. Maybe Seth will have more to speak to that in his report later. In terms of Parks Board, the board took a unanimous vote to approve the bike rack prototype that was actually created by Morningside Welding in town. So I'm really happy with the look of the bike racks, and now that the bikes themselves, the bike racks themselves and the plan is in the hands of our town manager, I just wanted to extend my thanks to both the Sustainable Poolesville Board for originally discussing the idea, and then recommending that it go to the Parks and Roads Board. Just came from a little idea that I'd had one day when I was spending some time over at Halmos Park. That it's probably one of our biggest parks in town, and it has so many amenities, soccer fields and basketball courts and tennis courts and playgrounds and baseball diamond and walking paths, etc., but no bike racks. And I saw some kids kind of ride their bikes up and then sort of throw their bikes down on the walking path. So I just wanted to thank the Parks Board for kind of moving this forward, especially our chair Doug McKinney and our vice chair Jeff McIntyre for just taking so much care with it. They're really going to be a great addition to the town, I think. We also discussed recommending a list of names for new streets and parks, which will be before us on our agenda later on this evening. And wheeled equipment on the pickleball and tennis ball courts was also on our agenda. So staff had been getting some complaints from pickleballers that wheeled equipment on the courts was becoming an issue. So Town Hall actually decided to put up a sign prohibiting the use of any wheeled equipment on the courts. However, once the sign went up, we had a complaint from a resident who has been using the court and the brick wall that's attached to one of the tennis courts there, sort of playing solo hockey and bouncing the ball off the wall. So using skates to do so. So the board took a look at the code with the town manager, and there's actually nothing in our code that prohibits folks from using any kind of wheeled apparatus. So after some discussion, the board decided basically to leave things be as they are at the moment and allow both uses, especially since there's nothing in our code prohibiting it. I guess now the sign has been taken down. Is that
It's
true?
going to be taken down tomorrow.
Okay, great. Nature trails and paths. So this was the last thing on the agenda. We had two Poolesville High School students propose creating some nature paths through town, and they have pretty ambitious goals, and they gave several different options to the board, and it was difficult for the board to really visualize what they were talking about. So the Parks Board and our town manager and Preston, I'm out of town, as I said, so I did not attend. But I heard that they took a nice field trip and took a walk through some various parts of town this morning to just take a look at what these high schoolers are proposing. The trails would be something much more low pro, no paving necessary. The intent is to include very little staff time, and I understand this is also being funded in some way through the students. So thanks very much to the Parks Board and to Seth for going out in the heat and doing that this morning. That's all I have. And let's see.
You can come back to me if you want now. I'm ready.
All right, go for it.
Sorry about that. Okay, so first of all, the Fair Access Committee meets next week, but Link, as always, doing heavy legwork for the Fair Access Committee. Sent an email out to all the Fair Access members, and I'll circulate it to all the commissioners. He was on Andrew Friedson's Zoom call. This was just a few days ago, right before the weekend. And I'm going to read what he said. It's, of course, his Zoom call was great. And he did a great interview with Poolesville for Fox 5 Zip Trip. To people that saw that, there's a link for it. And I'm actually going to post that on my Facebook page, which everybody can see what it was. Andrew, unbelievable. What a great advocate for Poolesville, always standing up for us. Just been the best possible representative for us. So again, Val, thanks for ringing him in. And that guy stood up for us for the last couple of years, been amazing. On the call itself, Link asked about Poolesville High School and the co-located facilities projects. He said, regarding PHS, Andrew said the first thing you want to note is that the council is going to have to consider possibly up to $500 million in reductions over the next 2 fiscal years due to the economic downturn. I think everybody knew that the number is going to be big, and that's a big number. Regarding Poolesville High School, he said he could not be prouder to be working with the Fair Access Committee and complimented our advocacy. He said Poolesville High School is firmly in the CIP unless serious cuts have to be proposed by the Board of Education, which I'm betting there will be. He went on to say that everything is a challenge right now, but he looks forward to seeing the new building being completed from one of the best schools in Maryland. Hey, that all sounds pretty good to us. As long as he's still saying that, then that's what we're believing. I think all of us are members of the Fair Access Committee. We're all finding our times to reach out and meet with the decision makers. I know that I've spoken to 7 of the 9 council members just in the last week alone about having conversations, whether it's been text or just a general making sure that they know Fair Access, our heart's still beating here, and that we're watching, and that we need to know if there's something that we need to do, and we're kind of relying on them. Link closed it off with co-location conversation with Andrew. He said that there's been a lot of short-term activities, such as funding for the Poolsville Senior Committee, and work also being done to set up a test site in our area. Andrew said he's wanted to do more with the county executive on getting the needed facilities you've advocated. So, he knows the message is out there. He didn't have specifics, but Link was sure part of his commentary is a reflection of the budgetary uncertainty and the fact that, unlike the school, we have not gotten firm budget inclusion in the CIP for our community facilities. Link's impression was overall a good call. Once again, I'll post on my Facebook page here in a couple minutes. And Fair Access meets next week via Zoom. And I've got here, which is why I had to go second, our next generation and final generation, I'd say, of Fair Access t-shirts. And they are for whoever, Kevin and I were talking this week about it, and I've got 50 of them, and we're going to make them available to anybody that does something special for Fair Access. So likely it will be, if you send a letter of support, if you reach out to one of our council members, if you have something positive to do for the BOE, you're going to get a t-shirt at least from us. And we're going to figure out how to design a campaign that will make it so that we can get those t-shirts out to the people. I sponsored them. Surprisingly, there's not one thing that says Turning Point Real Estate on them anywhere. And we're going to, and then we'll circulate those to whoever does something good for us. And we're just going to keep making t-shirts. The more good things people do, the more t-shirts I'm going to have made, and we'll be handing them out. So that's something I hope that we can see a lot of people wearing Fair Access t-shirts as time goes on. And then last but not least, there was an article that, we've completed an article in the magazine Plenty. It's not in this magazine that just came out, but it will be in the next one. And Kevin and I did a photo shoot, and I like Kevin because he makes me feel tall. That's all I got.
Great, thank you. Val, you want to go ahead next?
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot. I mean, obviously our committees are not even meeting because we're not having events, sadly. Month after month, we just can, continue to say that, and it's heartbreaking for all of us that these events are not, taking place. But there's still lots of planning going on behind the scenes for when and if, the moment comes that we decide we're going to put something together. And I just want to thank Seth for, working so closely with the office team, and of course, Kathy, just trying to stay on top of things and figure out, what we're going to do, when we can do it. And unfortunately, monitoring the things that we can't do. I don't really have any other announcements. I did want to mention one thing, just because I want everyone to be aware, and maybe some of you probably are, but there's some pretty strong changes taking place within the Poolsville Area Senior Center. And a few weeks ago, unfortunately, Renetta was relieved of her duties as the event coordinator and the director for the senior center. I know that they are undergoing some changes and trying to figure out where they want to go and what direction they want to go in. And, hence the change that was made. I have reached out to Maria and Melissa Sissel, and I plan to meet with them sometime in the upcoming future, real soon, to chat with them about, what that looks like. Having been a part of the creation of the Poolsville Area Senior Center, everyone knows it's really close to my heart and the program itself. And it's certainly important that going forward, we continue to support whatever activities are being planned for our seniors. The quality of life that they are going to have down the road, continuing to be a resident in a town that doesn't get a lot of assistance from the county for our senior citizens, is really important that we continue to have a program here that is supported and, well attended, and that we're always offering new ideas. So I just want to make sure that everybody's aware that there are some changes going on so that we can keep our eye on things and just see how it goes. Naturally, my only reason for bringing this up is because we want this to continue to be a program that is going to benefit our residents. So just wanted to mention that. That's really all I have.
Val, is PASC asking for any kind of assistance from this board in any way, or?
No, they have not. We supported them for years with, in creating everything that they are today. I mean, myself and Link, Ray Hoeing, and David Schneier created the program originally. And then Jay took his personal time and created a 5013C for them to get them up and running. Bobby, she wrote the grants for a few years until they were able to figure out, exactly how to do it and what to do. And they've been supported by the county very nicely with a stipend. It's probably not enough, but we're very grateful for it. But no, they're not asking for any assistance at all, actually. So,
Jerry. Jerry, you want to go ahead?
you have to unmute, Jerry.
Yeah, I know. Couple things. One, with respect to the school, MCPS and the Board of Ed had a lengthy meeting last week, which I watched the majority of it. A lot of slides, and talked about how they were going to run the various grade schools, elementary, middle, and high school. And it looks like it's going to be virtual classroom until they make a decision, which is being done, except for, I think, Fairfax County and PG County, and I can't think of one of the other Virginia counties. But it'll be some sort of virtual, and possibly having a 2-day-a-week for certain grades come into school. And then it'll come in like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday will be a day of disinfecting. And then Thursday, Friday, another class will, come in. And then the group that had Thursday, Friday will switch to Monday, Tuesday the following week. But that's all yet to be decided. The Board of Education last week passed a resolution to awarding a contract to Dustin Construction Incorporated in Imesville for necessary management services, pre-construction services for cost estimating, value engineering, constructability reviews, and the development of construction implementation schedule for Poolsville High School to the tune of $50,000. Our census response rate continues in Poolsville, continues to creep up. We started out around 82, well, before it was even below 70%, but now we're up to like 82.7%, which is 7.6% better than the 2010 response rate we had. And our census tract rate, which is a larger area, which encompasses Poolsville, is up to 75.6. I received a communication that the county's broadband office will be providing an update concerning broadband services out here in western Montgomery County, with a longer report regarding the ag reserve in August. And the county is also working to identify homes that do not have broadband services at this time. And we are now listed on MML's website as having endorsed MML's statement on facing systemic racism, which we adopted at the last meeting. And I do have one comment about the Parks Board decision and about the gentleman going on the tennis court and the pickleball court. I don't know how many people go out and, paint a house or buy a new car, and then all of a sudden somebody comes along and scratches it. It's like you pay good money to have a service done, to have a court surfaced, and then it's going in and it's becoming scuffed. I understand the gentleman's desire to practice his hockey. However, we pay good money to have that surface constructed. Now, some people say, oh, it's only a little thing here, a little thing there, but you know what? It was brand new and it's getting scuffed up. So, I have a concern over that, in that the fact that, not everybody can do everything they want when they want to do it. And we should be mindful of that. And sometimes we just have to say no. So anyways, and that's it for me. Thank you.
Very good. Now we have approval of minutes, and we have 3 different minutes to approve actually this evening. Does anyone have any discussion of any of the minutes? We have the minutes from July 6th, and then the minutes from 2 closed sessions, one on June 23rd and one on July 6th. I think, Jerry, you're trying to speak, but I can't
Yeah,
hear
I
you.
am again. I was being nice. I muted myself, which a lot of people would like to see happen permanently, but that's another story. I make a motion. We approve the minutes of July 6th. And what was the other one? 22 June?
June 23rd and July 6th.
June 23rd.
And July 6th. Yep.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. And next up is our public comment. And Seth, do we have some folks?
Yes, we do. We also had received written comment as well from Link Hoeing and Ann Connor. So I just wanted to note that as well. You all received both of those. I forwarded links to your emails, and another one came through the town submission platform. Yes, we do. What I will do is take Ed Reed. I will bring him in.
Hi, Ed.
Hey, how's it going, Carrie? How are you?
Good.
I take it that you can hear me fine then.
I can hear you.
Yes.
All right, sure. And then Seth, are we all ready for me to go?
Yes, the town commission usually has a 3-minute limit, so just kind of keep that approximately in mind. That time.
You say go and I'll go.
Let's go.
All right. All righty. Town commissioner, it's always good to see you and to sit here and watch you on YouTube. Isn't this something special? And so hey, I just wanted to, first of all, my last, I guess, 2 minutes and 30 seconds left, want to recognize the young students who started that peaceful protest, and just want to acknowledge them. Since that time, I was privileged as one of the people who were able to speak, and I had a call to action, which was, what can we do to strengthen Poolesville? And I would say we need to have something called community conversation. And so for the last 5 weeks, we've been having these conversations on Zoom, and we have about 70 people who've signed up. And so we meet Thursdays from 8 to about 9:30, and then Saturday mornings for those who can't make it in on Thursdays. And what's come out of a lot of the conversations is just the need to look at how can we, as a Poolesville community and beyond, how can we work with the town to make sure that people who are running into challenges that center around diversity and inclusion, how can we make sure those voices are heard, and how do we work to support them? And so there's some things that the group of us are going to be doing, but we also want to look at what we could do partnering up with the town, or what could the town do just to help the residents of Poolesville and those who come to Poolesville, just to make sure that they feel welcome and supported, and address some of these hidden voices that don't feel comfortable speaking up, but have started speaking up since we've had our started our community conversations. All right, and that's it. That's my comments. Hopefully I didn't go over the 3 minutes.
You're fine.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Good seeing you, Ed.
Hey, good seeing you too, Jim.
I mean. All right. Under public comment, we have Jennifer Beaulieu and Roger Hayden. So I'm going to bring them in.
Good seeing you, Ed.
Hey, good seeing you too, Jim.
Hi, Roger. Hi, Jennifer.
I think I'm going to wait a moment.
Uh-oh, my bad.
Right. Under public comment, we have Jennifer Beaulieu and Roger Hayden. Roger, do you have your, there you go. I'm not sure if Jennifer can hear us. I know it says connecting to audio. Jennifer, are you here?
Yes, I am.
So just Roger and Jennifer, just to let you know, public comments typically limited to about 3 minutes, just to keep that in mind. But you and Roger Hayden. Roger, do you have your there you go.
Uh-oh, we're getting
I'm not sure if Jennifer can hear us. I know it says connecting to. Roger, are you on mute?
Can you hear me? Yes, I am.
Yes.
So just Roger and Jennifer. Oh, hey, Roger, what you're gonna have to do, I know it's Roger's problem, is you're gonna have to mute the YouTube video, but not.
Okay, all right.
Somewhere in the lower right, there you go.
Hold on, is that better?
That's better.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, but I'm still gonna unmute for like Jerry. Many people want me to mute all the time anyway. So, but thank you for the time to observe this proceeding.
Are we good to go?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. Thanks, Jennifer.
Oh, thank you. This will be very brief. I am in receipt of the staff report related to the forest conservation easement on my property, and I am aligned with the staff recommendations to the commissioners. I'm appreciative that the recommendations reflect a collaborative effort that allows a path to move forward and also provide some broader benefits to the town. So I just wanted again to extend my thanks to the staff for their strategic efforts.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
And thanks for being so patient, Jennifer.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. Well, I'm gonna move you to the waiting room if that concludes your statements.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, I'm fine. All right, that's all the public comment I have from
Okay.
citizens.
Yeah, and I just wanted to, Seth had already mentioned it, but we did receive an email from Link Hoeing, who had suggested a type of human rights vision statement or a proclamation. So hopefully everybody saw that email, and it might be something for this board to take a look at, to agendize perhaps, or to have it be part of a diversity council if we intend to go that route. And then I also just wanted to quote something that Ann Connor put in her email. She also wrote into this board in support of the creation of a diversity council. And she says, part of our challenge in the Ag Reserve we live in, love, and protect is to keep Poolesville viable and economically sustainable. We need to hear voices that haven't been heard, extend our efforts to include all people in our community, and leave no contribution untapped if we are to be sustainable long term. So I just thought that was very well said.
Yeah, I'd like to also ditto, what Carrie just said, and both of their efforts. Link is always, just above and beyond. He has been a #1 for Poolesville for 20 some years in his participation in a way that is just so is so evenly balanced in what he looks out for the community. And Ann as well is just an amazing human being and always looking out for everything Poolesville as well. So I really appreciate the two of them, in such a vast community, those two people taking the time to chime in on these issues and talk about what they can do to, assist in the betterment of our community. So thank you to Ann and Link, as always, because the two of you are always reaching out.
That's right. Thank you. So next on our agenda is old business. The first agenda item is the Beaulieu Forest Conservation Easement Agreement. And Seth, do you want to present?
Yes, I'll start with that. I just want to bring one thing up based on something that occurred several months ago. This Beaulieu request, there was a time when one commissioner was not able to make the meeting, and you had all tabled this agenda for all 5 members to be together. I don't know if that's still the desired or intent, but that's what happened one time, I think, when Valerie was not involved, but I just wanted to bring that up. I don't know how you want to proceed, but I'm ready if you are, but
I'm ready to go as is.
okay. So what you have before you, and I'm not going to try to get into great detail, but just to back up one moment, remember this sort of came about because the town initiated a zoning change, which allowed Ms. Beaulieu to have additional rights on her property. And that also subsequently changed her forest conservation area requirements. So she is seeking to exercise those land development rights. You see the chart in here. While she is asking for a reduction in the aggregate overall area forest conservation, she's still above the requirements of the zoning category she has today, which means there's a reduction of forest conservation area, and that is a town commission task since you're a party to that deed and easement agreement for you to make that change to this forest conservation area. Unlike years ago when some property owners would just pay the payment in lieu of forest area that would go to the town, that policy has been changed, as you all know. It now goes to the state, so we're not, that doesn't benefit the citizens of Poolesville. So on February 12th, the Planning Commission approved their concept plan, but then that required a change in the forest conservation area. Comes for the first time on February 18th to the Town Commission. For this request, there was some discussion at that meeting, and then it was discussed that maybe there needed to be a little bit more consideration at the next meeting on March 2nd. So at the March 2nd meeting, there's a more discussion on this topic, and one of the thoughts that came out of this is maybe the town could create a forest bank area in which we would get the easement, retain forest area in town. It would go under an easement so that future commissions or future bodies might not dispose of some property, and that actually a contiguous quality woodland would be protected in the future. So that was an option, but there are mechanisms to put that together as we've discussed before. So what's happened since March 2nd is essentially just that. Town staff, town attorney has explored how to create a forest bank and what those mechanisms are. We feel that this is probably a good path to go down, not just for this project, but there will be commercial projects in town eventually where forest area may not make sense on a very small commercial lot. It may be more reasonable to have it as part of a contiguous stand, as I just noted, and put a forest conservation easement on there so it's protected in perpetuity. We might even be able to sell some of this forest bank area to entities outside the town limits who cannot meet forest conservation in another town jurisdiction, or a public works project is occurring, such as a highway or some sort of airport improvement, and they need to find a community where they can buy forest conservation area. We could offer that to the free market. That's really a benefit here and could help the town. Now, as we kind of segue back into this with Ms. Beaulieu and her project, is that instead of doing a traditional forest conservation payment in lieu, really, she's almost doing an administrative payment in lieu. So we could then begin to establish this forest bank, because you need 2 types of survey. One's a true boundary survey of the property that you're going to have for forest bank, and then the other is the woodland quality. So you're actually selling something off. The State Department of Natural Resources is going to review this. They want to make sure that you're not just selling, 1-foot trees that you hope to eventually grow, that there's actually a legitimate stand. So the recommendation before the town commission would be that you accept the planning commission recommendation for the reduction in forest conservation area, since that was a recommendation to you. Ms. Beaulieu does the payment in lieu that we described. It'd be approximately $20,000. It could be a little less because of the survey she had done, found her lot to have not quite the size as recorded in the deed. So it could be just a little bit less, but those dollars would be used for the administrative cost of establishing a forest bank, as I noted. And then you, in this recommendation, would direct staff to establish such forest bank. Jay and I would work with the Department of Natural Resources and other agencies. We would keep you in the loop as we went along. So that's really the recommendation. Accept the Planning Commissioner's recommendation to you. She pay the payment lieu, direct staff to establish a forest bank. That's really the three highlights here.
Does anyone have any questions for Seth?
I'd just like to tell Seth, I really appreciate you and Jay and even John Strong working your way through this and both conceptualizing it and making it something that will benefit the town in the long term. So thanks for putting in the work on it.
Yeah, I echo that as well. And just, this has been a process in trying to make sure that we're doing the right thing for the town and for our resident. We appreciate her patience and, like Jim said, the due diligence of everyone trying to carve something out that's going to be beneficial. So thank you for that.
Jerry, did you have anything?
No, I like the idea of what Seth and Jay and John have come up with. Like to see it in writing. Like to know if there's some sort of, I guess, scale that we would use, or how it would work out in more detail before but I think it's a right step forward to have a forest conservation bank with the existing lands, our lands that exist today.
So I just wanted to, as you know, I've been had a lot of mixed feelings about this particular item, and so I just wanted to say my piece about it again tonight before anyone makes a motion. I too have a lot of trust in our town manager, that he's given a lot of thought to this situation, that he's giving us the best recommendation that he can with the information at his disposal. And I also thank the Planning Commission, who spent a lot of time on this, our town attorney and other staff, and the members of this board who've given it so much consideration. I thank Ms. Beaulieu for her patience and her willingness to work with her neighbor and with all of these boards during this process. It couldn't have been easy, so I do thank her for that. However, I still just really have a problem voting against protecting a forest conservation easement in perpetuity, one that was granted to the town by the applicant, and it just still rings as a bad precedent to set here in Poolesville, especially since we have so little forest land in our town limits. And if we're going to go to the trouble of taking an action not to protect a forest conservation easement, which of course is a contract that the town entered into, signed by the resident and by Jim, who was our president at the time, we should really have a really, really good reason for giving the easement back, and or part of the easement. So we have a property owner who can still build homes on her property with the easement intact, maybe not as many homes, but I'm still failing to see the benefit for the town in making this change, and I'm failing to see a really good reason for the town. Reasons like a major thoroughfare going through the easement, or maybe a community center proposed, but something that benefits maybe and not maybe everyone, or many, and not just one. So just wanted to say that again. That's all I have.
And I guess I will say that I do, I appreciate what you're saying, Carrie. If in fact the situation had not taken place the way it did, and, we certainly do not want to give up our forestation by any means. And I think that if it hadn't occurred the way it did, where we came behind the situation and changed, the requirements and the use, it would be a whole different ball of wax in my mind. I would not be supporting
this in any way, shape, or form. But I think since our boards made a change that affected her, I think that we are being fair as a town in making sure that we benefit, and to our residents that, you know, we're not just going to come along and change things after we've had an agreement with you and not take you into consideration. So I do appreciate everything that you have said about the process. And I would say that under any other circumstance, I would be right there with you.
Thanks for that.
Well, I said something about the forest conservation establishing these easements. However, I agree with Carrie on this one. I just think it sets a bad precedent, and I'm against any diminishing of, you know, what we had, what was in the original, you know, should be given to us. So.
And I guess I have to reiterate what I'm saying too, Jerry, just because I feel that we actually set the bad precedent. We agreed to something, but then we turned around and let everybody else do something else. And that's what feels, as I said right from the beginning back in February, that's what feels wrong to me. I feel that we're the ones who kind of changed it up and turned this into a situation. But, you know, I understand everybody's point of view, and I appreciate everybody's.
Well, thank you, Valerie. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, is there any more discussion, or is there a motion on the table?
I mean, I'd like to make a motion that we pass, you know, the amendment and the proposal in the fashion that it was, you know, given to us by town staff.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I would second that.
Thank you. Perhaps we should do a roll call vote for this, Seth.
Sure. Jim, how do you vote?
Yes.
Valerie, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Jerry Klobakowski, how do you vote?
I vote no.
Carrie, how do you vote?
Vote no.
2-2 is a tie, so does not pass as proposed here. We have no, go ahead.
Thank you. Perhaps we should have waited on this issue until we had 5.
That could be a decision you make. What would have to happen is Jim Brown and Valerie seconded this, so they would, I think, have to almost rescind their decision, pull back. Jay maybe will help us out with the minutia on Robert's Rules of Order, but
Yeah, I think if you're going to reconsider this when you have a different body together, so at your next meeting, a motion to reconsider would be in order by the prevailing side. And since there is no prevailing side, because it's 2-2, the motion failed. The prevailing side would be the people that did not make the motion. So if a motion to reconsider was in order, either Jerry or Carrie would make that motion, and then you would vote on that, and you would have to have a majority on that motion, and then you could reconsider the subject as it is. Or another option would be to create a new motion that would address not exactly the subject, but something similar to it, meaning you could amend this. But obviously, it wouldn't happen during this session because you still have a 2-2 vote unless you're going to change your vote right now.
So does anyone want to make a new motion?
I have a question. Is there anything that the negative votes would change, would consider changing in order to make this more palatable to them, or is it just a no? I mean, the town staff has gone through a process for the last several months to come up with a very, very fair compromise, and something that is in the spirit of working with our residents, something that's in the spirit of doing the right thing. And again, we come down to this vote where I'm sure there's been some consideration given, but at the same time, you know, a lot of people put a lot of hard work and a lot of consideration and a lot of compromise into what was created and developed, but still yet the same answer. That's really not in the spirit of trying to put something together. If you have something different or something that would make this more palatable to you, I'd love to hear it, because that's in the spirit of working with people versus just kind of hanging your hat on a an agreement that the town in effect changed the circumstances under. So I'm all ears if the nay votes want to hear propose something that's positive.
For me, it's about the issue of setting the precedent. I see my role as an elected official to look for the benefits for the entire town. And I'm just not seeing it here. And I know that I have taken a lot of consideration. I know that the staff has, I know that all of you have, and I very much appreciate that, but I'm still stuck on the precedent of releasing or amending the easement in perpetuity.
Well,
Well, I
no
guess-
offense, no offense, Mr. President, but have you come up with an alternative?
I have not.
Okay. I think you should. Town staff's done a great job of coming up with an alternative.
And I think that the alternative they came up with definitely took into consideration, our community,
Yeah.
the future, the actual municipality itself, and the resident. So, having said that, I do have to say, I think that, it would be nice to hear from one of you guys that are opposing it, what would be, other than just, no, we're not going to do anything to accommodate the resident after we changed the rules.
I'm not going to belabor this. I agree with Carrie. I don't necessarily think, we have to always do everything that everybody wants. And sometimes the answer is no. And for me, that's what it is in this particular issue. I appreciate what this town staff has done, what Seth, John, and Jay have, come together to, but that is a separate issue in my mind and for a consideration for another time. And on this issue, I believe that what Carrie and I support is the correct way to go.
Jay, anything else, any other alternatives that you can think of that makes this more palatable for the nays?
I could explain the proposal we came up in a little further detail. If
That'd be
that
fine.
might help, but my job isn't to kind of talk you in or out of anything.
No.
Yeah, I'm not certain how that will really aid in things.
Yeah, I feel
Well-
at this point that, it's a shame that we can't agree on this to benefit the resident and the town. I think it's a far cry from an appropriate representation of what the community would want. But, this is the way it goes. Votes are votes, and it is what it is. I'm sad that we are not, as a whole, taking our resident into consideration. So it is what it is, but I guess I'm willing to let it go. And I only say that because I feel that it will become more contentious and more upsetting to just continue to hear that we don't want to take our resident into consideration after we change the rules to affect her.
Yeah, you guys, the vote is the vote, but it's a terrible, you talk about precedents, it's a terrible precedence. We did this and we created it. And now it's like kind of a nah to the people that are involved with this. It's a shame. I hope that the nays are happy with themselves, and I hope that their neighbors, the neighbors of the Bolus, are happy with the answer to this too. And it's just a shame. It's too bad. It's not to me, it's not how Old Poolsville took care of business. That was representing everybody and working with people. That's all I'll say about it.
Jim, there were votes in the past where the entire commission didn't agree on something and
Right.
the ordinance or resolution went down. You know, there's no and no thumb in anyone's eye here. It's a position
Feels like
that
it.
Gary and I share about, you know, what was originally intended. I have a personal thing about the amount of watershed that we have lost in town. And
we wouldn't lose any
the
watershed.
bottom line is, you know, that's what I feel. And again, there's no disrespect to Miss Baloo. There's no disrespect to Roger. And a great deal of respect for all the residents of this town that I made the decision. So, you know.
Understood.
And I guess my question is who voted to change it for the neighbors surrounding her? And why wasn't it taken into consideration then? Because Jerry, you've been on this board forever.
The applicant's in the waiting room, and if you have any questions for them, but I just want to let you know that if you did.
Well, I just think, I mean, I agree with Val. I'm also sad that we're not together on this, but I mean, at the end of the day, we all have to, you know, we all have to speak our minds, what we value. And I think that we've all just done that.
Yeah, I agree. I will reiterate the fact that I value the forest conservation beyond words in our community. And
As do I.
And for me, it's not about that. If this were
Right.
on any other platform, I would be, you know, I'd be marching to the pulpit saying we have to preserve that 100%. What we did was not a fair and equitable situation for this resident. And I will continue to say, regardless of what anyone feels, to her, I am very sorry that the town created a situation that was doable for everyone else, and now we won't allow her to do it. So that's all I have to say on it. My apologies to her and her family.
Me too.
Okay. Thank you.
So we still have to decide what we're going to do about the fact that it hasn't passed or been denied.
Well, actually, by being a tie, it becomes a denial. Any
Right.
vote that is a tie is a denial. Is a-
So we don't have to do anything else going forward. At this point, it's just done.
That's correct. And as Jay had explained to you, you know, you have one of two ways to bring this back up.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for that. And again, you know, my apologies to the Baloo family.
Thank you. Next is new business. We start with our COVID update.
Carrie, do you want to have anything?
I don't have anything. I checked our zip code numbers this evening and we're at 29. And I understand that there's a testing center coming next month. I believe Jerry has perhaps more details on that.
On 15 April, which is a Saturday at the Baptist Church.
August, right?
Or August rather, yes. And more information will be coming out here so that we can put stuff on our website and the town community page and the town Facebook page. And people will have to call in or sign up over the internet for an appointment. And then they'll have the Baptist Church gym set up in a manner that will allow people to walk through, social distance, take the test, and walk out. And I really appreciate the elders of the Baptist Church stepping forward to do this for their community. Thank you very much.
Just a couple things on my end. The county has stepped up its contact tracing program significantly in that regard. As you all know, Bates for probably about the past 3-4 weeks has been back to bulk pickup. As I noticed previously, sometimes a number runs into a little issue that they gave out on their own sheet. So you may have to call just their main number. The other thing is just kind of proposing, and I've discussed with my staff that the numbers are been relatively flat. Obviously, some states are increasing. When I mean flat, relatively in Montgomery County and the state of Maryland, the numbers have been pretty consistent. We don't know where those are going to go because clearly other states in the country are rising again as well. But I state that to state one of our thoughts in my discussions with my staff was that we would remain closed here in town hall until September 8th, which is the day after Labor Day, to give ourselves a little coverage. I want to bring that to you. Service seems to be going well. Reduced amount of contact with the public. As you know, we have a front desk that's not well protected, so we would need to make some modification with some sort of plexiglass or something else as well, just to provide a little buffer there, like some other places are doing, or some other method.
Do you plan to do that, Seth? I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you.
Sure. Do I plan to do that? I mean, the answer is no, I do not plan to do that. And, you know, right now, I haven't seen a degradation in customer service. So if there was that, I would think maybe more strongly about opening town hall. But I'm not sure that for the safety of the staff that makes sense. You know, we're going to out front, we're getting contact with people, we're in terms of getting things exchanged, and business seems to be going well. All our permits are still in the same process. In
I'm
terms of
sorry.
and
I'm sorry. Let me interrupt you because maybe you misunderstood what I was asking. Are you planning on putting some sort of a protectant screen at the front desk?
in the event that you know, there was a request to open town hall, I would have to.
I mean,
But-
eventually we're going to have to open town hall.
I know. I mean, that's a struggle. I mean, and that's why.
That's what I was wondering, if we had a plan to put some sort of a protective screen up there, you know, just going forward. We don't know where all this is going to go in the future. And so it almost seems like we should probably get something up there.
Understood.
Well, we've got until the 8th of September, as Seth said, so there's plenty of time to let Preston have his, you know, engage his talents and create something for town hall.
Yeah, and that was my thought process, is that if we're gonna, you know, hold off until September 8th, let's try to get that figured out between now and then, so that if, you know, that day comes, we're ready.
Sounds reasonable.
Anybody have anything else related to COVID?
I just have one thing, as president of the Montgomery County chapter, you know, that first of all, you know that the county received $183 million with respect to the CARES Act funding related to COVID-19 expenses. And whereas PG County gave X amount of dollars to each municipality in their county, the county decided to hold all the money, and we have to submit reimbursement requests to the county. So I'm requesting municipalities to send us, well, to Martin, our secretary, what they have requested in the way of reimbursement, and when they requested it, and what was the amount and what was it for, so that we can more or less keep the county honest. This money runs out on the 31st of December unless Congress and the president extend it, or, you know, beyond that date. But anyway, so just to make sure, you know, the county's honest, the old adage, trust but verify. So anyways, thank you.
All right, thank you. So next on our agenda is a request for historical naming of streets or parks. And there's two separate portions to this. Do you want to?
I can take this. Sure. As Carrie had presented earlier in the evening, under her parks report, the Board of Parks, Recreation and Streets has proposed two things to this committee. First of all, is the addition of names on the street naming list, which would be William Taylor and Skip Etheridge. As I mentioned in my staff report, Taylor and Etheridge surnames may be taken here in the county somewhere else, but they could do the full names as well. So I wouldn't let that kind of impact us in terms of our discussion. We can work with the county on their addressing system to see how we could get those names on their approved list. Then we've got George Coakley, Cal Sneed, Chuck Stump, and Wade Yost as names to be added to the list for street names. But that's the list itself of names. The second part of this is that the Parks and Rec and Streets Committee thought that it'd be appropriate to amend the resolution 002-07, which created the format by which you name streets to not just be streets, but also be fields and parks. I'm sure we've probably done that in the past, but this just formalizes that process. So tonight for the town commission, your role is to review what the Board of Parks, Recs, and Street has provided to you, the additional names, and then the change to the resolution as noted. What we'll probably have to do is come back. So we'll need a motion on those two items, but in that motion that we come back at your next meeting with amended resolution. It's just not quite as easy to add the word street behind street, comma, park, and field, just based on the way it's written. So we would need to amend that a little bit because it goes in depth talking about working with the Montgomery County addressing office, which they're not worried about our parks being named as much as the streets. So under your
You've
town,
obviously named parks after
correct,
your individuals before, but this is just,
formalizing that.
yeah, formalizing. Okay.
So under your town commission action, I listed the three things. And then I should have added number 4, which is bringing the resolution back at the 8-3 meeting for an actual vote. But really what you're doing is giving approval to make the change to the resolution.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Could we add a name to the list?
I think that, I mean, usually it comes from the
Well,
subboard, but I think if you want to, go ahead.
yeah, I'd like to have a street named after Frederick Douglass, who's a great emancipationist during the Civil War. Friend of
What does he have to do with Poolsville?
He doesn't. But
Okay,
he
so-
has a lot to do with the movement towards emancipation. So in a way, he's a national figure. Now, there may be already something named in the county and that can happen, but I offer it up.
So what would be the process for this if we did want to add names to this list?
Well, I mean, usually this is the way it goes is the way we're doing it now is, it's been recommended to the Parks and Recs and Streets for their advice back to you. One of the things that I think Jim was alluding to is that in the resolution that's attached, there's 4 criteria by which a name is added to this list for the town. I mean, you got to be 10 years of service with the town in some capacity, significant contribution to the town or community, name with local significance, name of flora, fauna, indigenous to this area. So that creates a discussion about what do you do with a national figure that doesn't meet this criteria. You either change the criteria or you lose the name, but that's a decision for boards, not me.
Well, so I hear what you're saying, Jerry, but I wonder if we want to first focus on formalizing the names that are already on this list and maybe creating a new list if we have more names that we want to discuss.
Well, we'd have to change the criteria.
And that's in the code, is that correct? We have to change.
Well, it's in this resolution.
in the
so-
resolution, sorry.
So we can- I'm bringing the resolution back next month anyway.
Well, we could move forward on A and come back to B. No,
You can take them as a package or sort of separate them. You could just add the names to the list as the resolution is drafted. You know, just take the,
We want to look at B and maybe come back to A. A is amend resolution 002-07, policy of naming streets. So that is the, amending it is adding parks. Is that?
Parks and Field.
Okay. So maybe we want to come back to that if we want to change the criteria even more so than that. Anyone have any thoughts on that?
I like the way it's written now. I think adding names to parks is great. But as far as changing the criteria to open it up to national figures, I'd really like to keep it within our community.
I agree with Val.
Yeah, I have to admit, I also agree to keep it local. And I think that we can add more names as we go on. I don't know how many more streets and parks we're gonna have to name, but I think I like it as it's written as well.
Okay, so how do we move forward with that? Do we make a motion that we amend?
Yeah.
Make a motion that we amend A to include park names? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, include the names that are on the list as found in the staff report.
Yep. Okay, I'll make a motion that we do that. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
So all in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Is there a motion for the second part of this piece?
Can you read the second part again, Seth? I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me.
Sure. I think we did it in reverse order. A was amend resolution, policy of naming streets, and then B is inclusion of additional names for amending resolution 002-07.
Okay. All right, so I'll make a motion that we approve both of them, A and B, in whichever order needed to come first.
Thank you. We have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. That was confusing. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so third on our agenda under new business is social media / diversity council. And I'll take a stab at this first, and I'm sure there will be discussion and perhaps a motion. So I know that the peaceful protest that happened in June was a moment, and now a local movement has been occurring, which has brought up a lot of uncomfortable, though in my opinion, very necessary conversations. We've already seen some changes happening around us, some good, some not. A lot of unfortunate words of hate and racism happening on social media, unfortunately. I think, you know, we're always going to have folks using social media, especially now in our sort of new normal of this online world that we're in. And I can let others respond to the issue of social media, but I wanted to point out the fact that we have one very positive initiative that's arisen, which Ed spoke to during public comment, which of course is this group that he and Chuck Copeland have started called Community Conversations. It's a resident-led group. It's facilitated by community leaders. It's occurring twice a week. And I think he said there were 70 people signed up for it. And it's growing. It's sharing of ideas, thoughts, possibilities of activism, and really just overall growth and understanding each other. And I've been attending these meetings. I know Jerry has as well. I've been talking with a lot of city council members in other municipalities, perhaps a lot of you have as well, about just ways to kind of take action on a municipal level and let the BLM movement really be a catalyst for change here in Poolesville. And what keeps coming up in my conversations is the idea to form something like a diversity council made up of residents, which by my way of thinking, we really won't have any problem doing so, since it really is kind of already existing in these community conversations that are happening and growing. So that's my piece. If anybody else has something.
I love the idea of this. I definitely have some concerns about it. My biggest concern is, well, I certainly would want to be a part of that, and going forward, depending on what this board decides to do, as far as taking some initiative as an actual board to create something. I mean, come November, I will not be a part of the board. And so, you know, I don't know how weighted my opinion in any of this really is. But certainly, you know, I plan to be a part of the community conversations. I have been in private in my own way with a lot of Poolesville residents. And all I can say about what we're going to do if we as a board decide to do this, and I do feel that it's a good idea, it's just trying to figure out how you balance that with your time, and more importantly, how you balance it with allowing all types of people and opinions to partake in that. And I think that that's what's important right now, is that we're all figuring out how to reach out to someone who doesn't necessarily agree with everything that we feel. Because if all we're doing is creating a group of 100 like-minded people, are we actually accomplishing something? And so my workings since all of this has taken place is to have a lot of very private conversations with people who I know are not of like mind as myself, and how I feel about Black Lives Matter, and how I feel about the police department and defunding. And all of you can only imagine what it's been like in the Dickerson household with a Black male and a Black cop. It's very, it's trying. It's a trying time, and it's really disheartening and sad to see the division that it is causing on top of the division we already have in our country. I want, of course, all of us to be a part of something that is going to be for the betterment of Poolesville. And that means not always taking the easy route. It means having uncomfortable conversations with people and trying to understand their feelings and how they feel. I will say again, I may have said it before, but I was very, very disturbed by the things that took place on Poolesville's social media websites, with the name calling, the horrible antics that took place. The printing of those signs and posting in our community was absolutely something I could have never imagined being done here. And I'm so upset with the way that this has all gone, that I'm certainly on board with doing something. I just don't know come November what that would mean for me. So I'm certainly going to say my piece right now, and then let everybody else weigh in on what they would like to see.
Great, thank you. You still have 4 months though, Val. 4 months.
I know.
Don't run away yet. Anyone else?
I think,
Okay.
from my perspective, I just like to see this group that Chuck and Ed have created go to mature more. And I think they've got a good start, and see what they come up with, and you know, and have them basically be a committee reporting to us, as opposed to maybe one of us having to be on a committee. but, that's my feeling. I think, they're doing a good job, a lot of ideas out there. Some, need to be maybe articulated a little stronger, but, everybody is in there and honestly participating, giving their best shot at what they think this group should do and what it should do in the future and who it should be involved with. I think it's a very good start. So I'd like to see what Ed and Chuck come up with and then join in with them.
Great, thanks. Jim, did you have anything?
I'm just listening and learning, that's all. So I would support whatever the group decided to do in an official town capacity. And I absolutely support the conversation started with Ed and Chuck. I'd like to see how they go. And I'm with Val. I think the inclusiveness is going to be key. If the goal is to make for a better Poolsville versus just trying to get political viewpoints apart, then I'm all for whatever makes Poolsville a better place to live. So if those conversations can do that through Ed and Chuck, I love it. I know it's working. If the town actually needs to play a role in that, an official role in that, I'd like to see how that evolves, and I would welcome anybody else's leadership, and I'd be a great follower.
Great, thank you. And I guess the way I'm also seeing this committee is a little bit of what all of you are saying, is that it's definitely about inclusion, and it's about the main goal being making a better Poolsville. I also like the idea of it sort of being a committee that reports to us. I mean, I think our involvement in it as commissioners is not necessarily the main point of it, but I do think that it should have goals, and like all of our committees, it wouldn't just be, as Val was saying, a group of like-minded individuals, because it would be a call to create awareness through education, a way to gather resources for action, and possibly, coming up with recommendations for, new policies or change in policies, recommendations to this board. So, but I do think that it's important for the town to back it, in some, official way, just to basically give it, the town of Poolsville credibility.
Sure, and I think we can come up with a way to do that, Carrie. I think it's important that we absolutely figure out a way to participate and let everyone around us, not just, our community and not just the people who are involved in that committee, but, the rest of the county know that we are working and striving to be, a better and more diverse community in our actions and our thoughts, in all things that we do, and being considerate of everyone who feels they need more consideration. And I think that this, movement it's really important, especially to this community who, sits in a heart of an area that, was derived from our amazing Black community. So I absolutely feel that being a part of that is important for us. I think I'm just, waiting to see what exactly we want our part to be. And I guess we can all think about that a little bit. And maybe, maybe that's our homework, is that we all come back with a thought at our August 3rd meeting of what we feel our part can be. And maybe, some conversations with Chuck and Ed on the side as commissioners to say, what do you see our role being?
Right. Yeah, I think I see it as really akin to, what we've all been trying to do with fair access. It came out of wanting a better school here in Poolsville, but it's really become more of a bigger, fair access for this entire region, and access to lots of different resources. So yeah, I like that idea of taking some homework home.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, if nothing else on that, I guess we will agendize that for our next meeting. And our next thing on our agenda is sewer allocation extension of the Donegan property.
Yes, as you're aware, you all recently approved the allocation plan with some minor changes and updates, and the allocation list from 2020 to December 31st, 2023. This Donegan property allocation is a request for 2 additional years from December 31st, 2023 to December 31st, 2025. And the reason for the extension on this property, and this is a recommendation from your planning commission, is it's the only property in town that's part of a master planned commercial site development. You can see that in the attachment there with its overall layout of its plan. It's one of the last few remaining commercial properties in the town that is nearly pad ready on its site. All other sites require some amount of redevelopment. This property is located in the target investment zone as identified in the Poolsville master plan, as a highly visible property in the commercial core of town. And it allows the property owner sometimes to attract the type of end user that the town may want to see that fits with the vision of the town center. And there's really the principal reasons why the planning commission recommended the extension allocation in this situation. And this allows the property owner, is one of the biggest bullet points, maybe try and find a user that fits with the vision of the community. And there's some possibility of that as well. I've just noted and reiterated a little bit, our allocation plan does have some safety check valves in there. This property is already allocated in the sense as if its sewer capacity was going to the plan. It has been that way for a number of years in that regard. So due to the unique characteristics of this property, as noted in the staff report, and the ability to find some sort of unique use for this highly visible marquee property, the Planning Commission did recommend to you to extend this to December 31st, 2025.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve that. And I know that there's been some discussion in the past of it's really, really important with this piece of property that we continue to try to work towards getting what it is that is going to benefit the community. And I know one thing for sure, I would really like to see that happen before my time is up. So I hope that, this is, I hope that this is an act of goodwill on our part to let them know that we really want to work together to find the right placement for that piece of property. So I'd like to make a motion that we approve that recommendation by the Planning Commission.
Thank you.
And I will second that recommendation with the added comments that, again, I appreciate all the hard work on behalf of the Planning Commission for their recommendations, as well as Jay and Seth for their hard work. And once again, working hard for the future of Poolsville by putting together a great proposal.
Great, thank you. So we have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. I also would like to extend my thanks to staff for all of their work on this, as well as the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Yes, agree with that as well.
And we are on number 5, zoning text amendment and town code amendment, swimming pools.
This also comes from your planning commission as a recommendation to you for approval. So currently, swimming pools, there's been a little discussion, as I understand, whether some people have classified this as an accessory use or principal use, and the distinction there results in the setbacks on the structure. If it's accessory structure, setbacks are less. If it's a principal structure, it has a greater setback. So in order to reduce any confusion, this text amendment was drafted by staff. It also includes an addition of swimming pools. So as I noted, there are two principal things. One is the setbacks is the big distinction and clarification of that with this text amendment. The second is it removes the swimming pool standards from the town code and puts it in a zoning ordinance where it should be anyway. Much of this is policy neutral for the most part. It's really just moving it from one location to another and defining the setbacks as I've noted. What your goal and vote on this, if you're inclined, would be to make a motion and set a public hearing for this, which staff recommends August 17th, 2020. But that's once I conclude the staff report, but that's the purview of this. If you just kind of go through there, I've added the title supplemental regulations to the general provisions. That's sort of the common nomenclature in a zoning ordinance. And then the bulk of the text, what I did in terms of defining the setback of a pool is it cannot be in the front yard, the front plane of the house. It's 8 feet from side and rear yard to the edge of the water. I've clarified that because this is sometimes a question of whether the deck has to be in or out of the setback. So it's just the edge of the water that's 8 feet from the property line, the front and rear, side and rear, as I've noted. And then a non-combustible type patio, such as concrete, pavers, bricks, or similar material that is flush and contiguous to the pool can go into the setbacks and technically go to the property line. For combustible materials like a wood deck or a composite deck, those can also be within the setback of the pool area. So if the pool's at 8 feet, you can take your wood deck area into the 8-foot area, but not closer than 5 feet to the property line. You want to have, in the event a fire started on this deck, that it's actually separated from the property line a little bit to reduce any potential flame spreading from property to property. And it's contingent upon that the deck not being attached to the main home. Once you attach anything to the main home, it has to meet the principal setback. So if you have a above ground pool in the backyard and the deck is not attached to the house, this is where it can encroach as defined in the ordinance. The rest is fairly much the same as exists in the ordinance. I've only added that you will need to go to Montgomery County to get your building permit. And then any abandonment of a pool after a certain duration of time, 24 months, would have to be removed. That's new. And then also brought from another section of code is how you discharge water out of a pool. You cannot do it into a storm drain that goes to some sort of natural drain like a stormwater management pond that could impact the wildlife. And then the definition is there. So all I need from you is a motion for a public hearing on August 17th to make this text amendment to the town code and zoning ordinance.
Seth, I have a question. Oh, sorry about that.
No,
Interrupting
go ahead.
whoever I did. What's the genesis behind this?
Well, the genesis was apparently there's been a little bit of confusion and disagreement about whether a pool is an accessory structure or principal use in town hall. And I just put that to bed. And let me drive that a little bit further. Is the problem with the accessory structure standards is it's either 3 feet off the rear of the property line and 5 feet from the side. That's pretty close for a pool to be next to an adjacent land use. But then if you go to the principal structures, then you're like 10 and 20 feet, depending on the zoning district, and maybe more than that. You might be 30 and 40 feet from the side and rear yard, and that seemed too excessive as well. So this was trying to find sort of the middle balance, if you will.
Okay, very good. I just I didn't know what created the impetus behind it. That's all.
And this wouldn't affect any pools that are existing right now in the town.
No.
Pardon?
No, it would not.
Okay.
So that was my question. I was just going to ask if that would make a difference to the existing pools. So,
No, there'd be no-
okay, well, I mean, if, does anybody else have any questions about that? Otherwise, I'll make a motion that we, go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, this paragraph 4, where it implies that you could not be required to have a fence around the pool if the pool was, what is it? Equivalent of 60 inches high, if there was something where it was 60 inches above ground, which would make it difficult to enter. I don't quite understand that myself. I mean, what is envisioned there for a pool that would,
It is an odd wording. It is in the existing code now, with one slight change, but essentially the content and language is the same. I guess it'd be in this situation where either you have an above ground pool that's over 60 inches in height, right? You're not going to climb that edge any further. The other thing is, for example, we don't have this, but let's say one side of your property is on, let's say we actually had a river in town that was unlikely for somebody to swim. Is it likely that you'd actually put a fence along a river on that side of your property, right? Because it does talk about maybe general barriers within here, either height or some sort of barrier. So the only thing I can think of is you either have a topographic change of more than 60 inches from you to your adjacent property owner, or you have an above ground pool that's taller than 60 inches, or some other natural feature that creates a buffer, which the Board of Zoning Appeals could say, you know what, fencing wouldn't make sense here anyway because you're above 60 inches, or you have a river that nobody's going to swim across and then get to the pool and then theoretically drown in that.
all right, 'cause I know my brother-in-law, he had a pool with a little deck around it, and it was actually attached to the deck on his house, so that people could walk from the, out the back door along the deck to the pool. And then they had a fence around the entire pool. That went up, and that pool was 5 feet high.
Mhm.
So, but there still was a fence around the entire pool. Anyway,
Highly encouraged, but
all right,
at least 60 inches is the threshold here.
okay. Valerie, you gonna make a motion, I guess?
Yep, I will make a motion that we approve it as it was presented by Seth.
Second,
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Thanks, Beth. And then our last item was historic district signs. This was actually an item that Martin had suggested. I don't know if you want to speak to it, Seth, or.
Certainly. Martin had brought this up in the past, and it does seem reasonably an agenda item. It is a situation where I think he found where there could be some grants that pay for nearly all of this signage that we'd probably place along Fisher Avenue, kind of welcoming you to our historic part of Poolsville. The ball's in my court to go and look and examine that grant and see how much they would fund that signage. Again, it seems to be a very high percentage of that. And really probably what we need, Martin may have more, but we probably need is a vote from this body stating, yes, we'd like to proceed forward with getting some funding and moving forward with this proposal. What I'd want to do to make sure we're placing the signs where we want them is look at the streetscape plan, which I've seen before for Fisher Avenue, but make sure it fits in with our long-term vision of improvements so that we place the signs in such a way that we don't have to move them again. I think this is probably going to be most of what Martin was going to present if I were speculating, but to actually keep this ball moving forward, I think is his goal. But, go ahead, Carrie, you have anything?
So we could vote to move forward, per your, ensuring that they're placed in such a way that we wouldn't have to make
Right.
changes down the road.
Correct. And I think the other vote of confidence in there is that, if the grant says we'll fund up to 10,000 and these signs are 50,000, I'd come back to you and say, well, we've got a huge discrepancy of what we thought. But if the signs are 8,000, they're granting up to 10,000, we're okay. If it's a couple thousand above and beyond that, we can shift a few dollars around, but it becomes just an understanding that this really doesn't cost the town much. And if it does, it comes back to you for a vote of understanding what that fiscal obligation could be. So
Yeah.
you're voting to move this project forward.
And I think that's important because we've been working towards this.
Can I ask one question? We have signs now along Fisher Avenue on poles. And are these signs going to replace those signs? Are they going to be larger than the ones that are there now? Or are these going to be like sandwich board signs or just regular?
When you say existing signs, are you thinking the wayfinding signs that we have?
Yeah,
The wayfinding signs would remain as they are.
okay.
If I recall a picture that I saw somewhere, I thought these might be a little bit more like entrance style signs a little bit more.
All right.
They are, because I was on the call with them when they displayed
Mhm.
the signs and showed them to us. So they definitely are.
Entrance style
Yes.
monuments, yep.
I wonder if we could take a look at them again.
Yeah, didn't Martin or didn't you send out something a long time ago about these signs?
Yes.
Yeah, Martin and I both, and we had all sent some things around. So I think they're in our emails somewhere.
Right?
Yeah, well, good luck in finding mine.
Well, we could probably re-forward it and find it.
I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, do we want to table this for next time and maybe take a look at them again? Or do we want to move forward with a motion?
Well,
I mean, I almost think we have to move forward, right, Seth, based on their timeline?
yeah, I mean, we can move forward. It's not like I'm gonna do anything radical without your approval on this. So I'm gonna see if I can share my screen because I found one of the signs. Let me see if I can. Can you all see this sign that says Town of Brookville?
Yep.
Right. Okay, I understand.
Valerie, is this what you had thought, or were you thinking something a little bit more substantial?
No, I think that's what I had looked at originally, and I like that.
Okay. So that's the general concept we're going for. Should help provide you a little bit more comfortability in moving forward with the vote if you're so inclined.
Does anyone want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we move forward. I don't know the exact wording. Sorry, I don't have much in front of me tonight. But I'll make them.
Good.
Go ahead, Seth.
I was just gonna say historic district signs.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we move forward with the grant finding for the historic district signs, as well as, the areas and the placement of where they'll go.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. So next is town manager's report.
Certainly. As you may have seen in the monocle, we did get some free trees. They communicated with me about the opportunity to get some trees. We ended up getting about 30 trees from them. We're keeping them watered down at the Public Works yard and keeping them together as a package and mulch them until fall. There's some very nice trees you saw. They're probably anywhere between 7 and 10 feet. We just had to help unload a semi bed here at Kingsbury to be able to get our free trees. So we had some in-kind time on 30 trees that we got for free. So that's a pretty good deal for us. Look forward to planting those in the fall. Regarding Collier Circle, which the Madam President had discussed earlier in the beginning of the meeting, the county was out here to measure the depth of the water versus the amount of sediment in there. So they're going to see if Collier Circle Pond has gotten sediment in it over the years. and has gotten shallow, and that in itself has allowed for more plant material to grow because the sunlight can go deeper into the water. They did that just today. I don't know when I'll get the information and results back on that. But related to something that was mentioned earlier, and then something that was in the ordinance and currently is in the ordinance regarding dumping of pool water, the water guys went down to Collier Circle to test the water, and the water did test positive for traces of chlorine. So clearly pool water is getting in there. I've been told that the chlorine water test will essentially detect chlorine has been dumped in the last 12 hours. Otherwise, it sort of dissipates after that point in that type of water. So I guess I need to do some sort of public announcement around the Collier Circle regarding not dumping your pool water into one of our drains, because that clearly has a negative impact upon the fish life as well, in addition to some other things. But, you know, it did test positive for that. I'm going to circle back with the county because they came here last week and did testing in that pond to see, you know, some biodiversity traits in there. I don't know if they tested for chlorine because I don't think that's really what they're looking for. They're probably looking more elements in the water in terms of making a quality habitat. But what they did find was that there was not enough dissolved oxygen in the pond. Of course, without enough oxygen, the fish cannot live. So it's part of the issue. So we didn't have enough dissolved oxygen. There's a question about the depth of the water. We know that it's been very hot. You know, there's just been a contributing factors there. But we continue to work that. And I will work with the county and our staff to try and figure out a solution that we can maybe end up with less fish die off at that pond. Street lights, I know there's been some questions about that. We've gone around and fixed a number of street lights in town. We have a long list. We're working on that. But there's 3 spots, Wooten, General Custard, and Lilly, where it's not the light bulbs themselves or the light heads. There's an underground wiring issue. And our contractor that we use for the lighting is probably backed up till end of August. And that's when he'll probably will get to it, end of August, beginning of September. But I wanted to let you know that the lights in that spot are more than just changing the bulb as well. For August meeting, the Parks and Recs has a meeting. They're going to talk about the pavilions and rental costs, the trails that Carrie had mentioned. And then the Planning Commission may meet with a tentative concept plan that could be submitted. It hasn't been submitted yet, but there's an applicant talking to us about that. That concludes the town manager report.
I do have a question for either the town manager or the president. Was on the vote that we had for the sewer allocation extension of the Donegan property, I didn't hear Jerry's vote on that. Was that passed 4-0, or was there, what was the vote on
Yeah,
that?
I,
believe it was.
yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, I just didn't hear it. I guess we all said it at the same time. Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
But you know what? I think you bring up a good point, Jim. I've been wondering if maybe we should be doing more roll call votes on Zoom just for that reason.
Or raise hands.
Yeah.
It's hard to decipher. I mean, even if you just go name by name and make sure you hear someone's voice.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll do that in the future. It's been encouraged.
Yeah.
With respect to the lights, any possibility of looking into changing over, or has that gentleman from Green Turnkey come back with any sort of proposal to switch to LED technology, which would hopefully reduce our electric bill for streetlights significantly?
Yes, I haven't talked to him in a while. He was going to submit a federal grant since we didn't get the Maryland grant. And I haven't talked to him in a little while, but that's definitely on the radar. The LEDs collectively in town and making that change. We've got to work through the mechanics of what it requires to make that change.
Any update on the crosswalk?
The crosswalks, we believe, should be middle of August was our proposal. So what we want to do. And
And what-
speaking of crosswalks, there's been a request by a few people that they get in contact with the county on Fisher Avenue across from the county pool. There's a trail connection that could make a nice link from Stony Springs to the county pool. There's a crossing there. I talked with John Strong. He says we've been down this path and that
Yes.
there's not enough warrants at that location with the county. I wish I could shake that tree again, but it doesn't sound like it's been that long ago. So I'm not sure if I'll get a different response, but it's been looked into on that regard.
It's some sort of an alignment issue as well.
Yes. It'd have to come in at a diagonal, but between the diagonal and the traffic counts, that they just say there's not enough to warrant a crosswalk at that location, which in part I don't totally get.
Yeah.
Well 11?
What's that? It's on 107?
No, well 11, I'm sorry.
Well, 11. I was like, that's the second week of August as well.
All right. Thank you.
It's happening in August. All right.
Let me make sure.
And the county roads, by the way, I gotta ask the question. It wouldn't be a meeting without me asking the question. The county roads, do we have them yet or not?
You know what? I actually need to sign, I need to actually see if they signed a document that was really an agreement amongst themselves formalizing that they're transferring the roads to town of Poolsville. So I have to see if they signed a document that we're not party to, but they had us look at. My thoughts, same, Jerry.
Okay.
Yeah, they sent us a document that said, do you like it? And I'm like, it's a document for you all, and if I don't like it, are you gonna allow me to change it? I mean, it's just didn't make a lot of sense to me.
Great.
All right.
If there's no more questions for Seth, I think
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second?
all in favor?
Aye. See everybody in a few weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks,
Thank
Seth.
you.
Thanks, Jay.